It has been a long, hard summer, and so maybe you're thinking about ditching your cool season lawn and going full Bermuda. But hold on one second. Before you make that switch, there are some big things that you need to consider first, from the work involved to the long term impact on your lawn's look and maintenance. In today's episode, I'm breaking down the pros, the cons, and everything in between so you can make the right choice for your lawn. Welcome to the Lawns and Life podcast, where DIYers go to get the tips and advice they need to have a great looking lawn. Well, hey there, lawn lovers. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Lawns and Life podcast, where we dive deep into the world of DIY lawn care. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned veteran looking to polish your skills, we have got something for everyone. In each episode, I break down simple, easy to understand topics that will empower you to achieve your dream lawn. My name is Devin. I'm the DIY lawn coach, and thank you so much for coming back for another week. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you've had a really good week. I had a really good week. I had some highs. I had some lows. We're going to talk about one of the lows and the mindful moment this week. I had the pleasure of meeting Joey Chestnut, which was really, really cool. So if you're following me on social media, Instagram, and checking out the post on YouTube, you'll see that I was able to have dinner with Joey Chestnut, and he actually came to work. We were hosting a little bologna eating contest, and he was one of the contestants, and it was just an awesome time. We had a lot of fun. He ended up eating almost 3.5 pounds of bologna in 2 minutes, which is insane. He does a bologna eating contest in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's called, I think, the Bologna Showdown. And in, I want to say, 8 minutes, he eats 16.5 pounds of bologna, which is incredible. It's disgusting. Of course, everybody knows him for the 4th of July and the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. I think he eats like 72, 74 hot dogs and buns. Insane. But got to have dinner with him. Super nice guy. He actually wanted to know more about me than I wanted to know about him, which was kind of weird. We talked lawns, we talked food, we talked chef. It was a great time. Awesome to meet him. But hope you guys had a great week. Thank you so much for coming back for another week. So today, guys, we are going to be talking about switching from a cool season lawn, maybe turf type tall fescue, over to Bermuda grass. Now, I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that I hadn't considered it. Strongly considered it. So I live in the transition zone, and I'll be honest with you, it is the middle of August, and my lawn isn't looking all that great. And I look at a lot of Bermuda lawns right now, and they are popping, and they are looking good, and they're beautiful. And it's got me wondering, like, should I switch? When do I switch? What are some of the goods, the ups or the pros, or what are some of the cons? And so I just want to talk about it in today's episode. So there are some very important things I want you to consider before you make that leap. But as always, before we get into the podcast, let's do this week's mindful moment.
It can be hard to slow down and notice things in a busy world. Mindful moments is where we pause for a moment to reflect on the here and now. After all, life is happening now. We simply need to take time to notice. These small yet profound experiences remind us that life is not about the destination, but the journey we take to get there.
All right, so for this week's mindful moment, I told you guys I had some highs with the Joey Chestnut thing, which was awesome. But we also had a low this week, and it's going to be this week's mindful moment. So I have a coworker that was actually in that bologna eating contest this week, and after he got done, immediately after the contest was over, his phone rang several times back to back, and it was his wife calling to tell him that his house had caught on fire. And coming off the high of competing in that contest and then getting that phone call that your house is on fire. And it just kind of shook me. So, this week's mindful moment, again, why do we do these mindful moments? They are an opportunity for us to put our feet on the ground and be mindful about where we are and what we're doing, right? And so I think, we talk a lot during these mindful moments about taking things for granted. And, I take my house being here for granted. I know that he never would have expected his house to burn down. Just to let you guys know, he is okay. His family, nobody was home. Matter of fact, he's got a son that lives with them. Everybody was out of the house. Son came home, saw there was a lot of smoke billowing out of the house. He actually broke the window, tried to get his dog out. Unfortunately, the dog did not make it, and it's tragic. I think the house is going to be a total loss, which is incredibly sad. All the memories, all the things inside the house are ruined. But all of his family is safe and no one was hurt. Turns out, I think it was the stove, maybe had shorted or something like that. But terrible and tragic. But again, I believe that God works all things for the good. And I think that looking on the bright side of this, obviously, no one got hurt. Yes, all of his stuff is gone, but they always say stuff is replaceable. Obviously, the memories and the things that he is losing will not be replaceable. But thankful everybody is safe. But so for this week's mindful moment, it just kind of got me thinking about my house and my stuff and what's really important in life. And we wake up in the morning. He woke up that morning. He had no idea that was going to happen. And it's just absolutely tragic. We're actually going to set up a GoFundMe page for him to help him. He's living out of a hotel room and right now, and I mean he doesn't even have a toothbrush or clothes to wear for the next day. He had to go to Walmart to go buy some clothes just to have shoes and socks and underwear and things just for the next day because literally everything was ruined. And so it's just a reminder, that we don't want to take things for granted. We want to appreciate the things that we have. And, sometimes we wake up and we just don't know what that day is going to bring. And it's absolutely tragic. So for this week's mindful moment, I just, again, wanted to take a second and bring attention to that and just remind myself that, things happen in life and nothing is really guaranteed. And you wake up and you just have no idea what's going to happen. And so it's just important to, be appreciative of what you have and the situation that you're in. And I just pray that he finds relief and comfort, and anybody who has to go through that situation finds comfort and relief. But that's this week's mindful moment. All right, so I told you guys that I'm considering switching from tall fescue to Bermuda, and I told you I'd be lying if I hadn't seriously considered it. And that is the honest truth. There are a lot of pros to Bermuda grass or warm season turf. I live in the transition zone, so basically what that means is our climate is conducive to growing both grass types. Now, being in the transition zone is a challenge because of the weather. Cool season grasses suffer this time of year, and warm season grasses thrive. So let's address the first consideration when considering going from a cool season turf to a warm season turf, and that is all about your climate. Again, we live in the transition zone, so you're gonna suffer on either end, right? So maybe in the spring and the fall, my lawn is gonna thrive. The winter, not so much. Most grass types don't do well unless you're really far south for a warm season turf. But my lawn still is green during the winter. It just isn't really growing. It's not dormant. It's still growing. It's still green. which is a big consideration for me because if I were to switch to a warm season turf like Bermuda, it's going to go paper sack brown in the middle of winter, especially here because it my lawn stresses out in the summer, Bermuda stresses out in the winter, and that stress is because it's so cold. It's not meant for that area. So understanding the climate, understanding what your particular climate is where you live is something you really need to consider before choosing any grass type, specifically going from a cool season to a warm season turf. Another thing to really consider is sunlight. Okay, so Bermuda grass will not grow if there's shade. It really needs full sun. So as I'm thinking about going from tall fescue to Bermuda, I have a lot of trees. So how am I going to approach the areas where the Bermuda is not going to grow because it needs full sun? So before you make that switch, make sure you survey your land and make sure that you are looking at the sunlight requirements and understanding that Bermuda requires full sun and to be able to thrive. Otherwise, you're going to have thin areas. And we know what happens when there's thin areas. You're going to open yourself up to weeds and other things. All right. Another thing to think about is, especially with Bermuda grass, is like, well, how am I going to establish that turf and how long is that going to take? Now is not the time to be doing that. If I was going to switch from a cool season turf to a warm season turf, this is going to happen in the spring. I'm going to kill off my lawn in the spring, and then in the summertime, I'm going to then seed with Bermuda and give it all of the summertime into fall to establish itself. Why is that? Because Bermuda grass grows in the summer. That's when its peak growth period is. And so I don't want to do this now, then go into a dormant period. That probably wouldn't be successful, let alone I'm going to have a lot of bare areas because the grass isn't established. And the grass, Bermuda is starting to shut down now, especially in this area as things kind of cool down. The daylight hours are getting, we always talk about the two things that really influence the growth of grass. Temperature is one, but sunlight is another one. So plants produce their own food through photosynthesis. So the less amount of light, the less food, the less they're growing. So it's something we got to be thinking about. Okay. Another big thing, probably one of the biggest things that influences my decision or should influence your decision is the maintenance difference. My tall turf can be mowed sometimes once a week, maybe twice a week at most. But if I was going to switch from a cool season turf to a warm season turf, I'm going to cut it low. And cutting it low, especially for Bermuda, requires it to be mowed frequently. See, Bermuda will get really, really leggy if you don't mow it consistently. And even though you're mowing it consistently, sometimes it will even require what's called a height reset because the grass, especially in the summertime, is growing so vigorously that the top portion of the grass is where the blade is. And so it's growing, it's growing, it's growing. Well, you're going to have to do a height reset because otherwise you're not necessarily scalping it, but you're removing all of the green tissue, and that's what leaves those brown marks in the lawn. And so when you do a height reset, you're resetting the height, you're allowing that grass to come back down. So I work a lot. I've got a busy lifestyle. I've got a very large lawn, 20,000 square feet. So it requiring me to mow every couple of days would be a lot for me. Now, if I had a smaller lawn, maybe that would be something worth considering. But 20,000 square feet is a lot to manage. Not to mention, if I was going to convert from a cool season to a warm season, I would probably consider a different mower, probably going with a reel mower, which means another investment into equipment. I would probably have to sell my riding mower. Now, sure, you can mow Bermuda with a rotary mower, no problem. But if I'm going to do it, I want to do it with a reel mower. It's part of why I would be switching, is to mow with a reel mower. And so that just costs more. Reel mowers are very expensive, more expensive than a rotary mower. Not to mention, I have a big lawn, and rotary mowers typically don't have the big wide decks like some of our rotary counterparts. So it would be a much bigger investment for me if I was going to switch. So these are all just things that we need to consider before we make that choice. Bermuda can be what I call invasive, right? I mean, so Bermuda, when I plant tall fescue, it's going to stay in that area. Now, sure, maybe some Kentucky bluegrass spreads a little bit. I have a rhizonomous tall fescue, and it does spread a little bit, but nothing like what Bermuda will. And so Bermuda will creep into your beds, over your sidewalks. It'll creep over into your neighbor's lawn. I'm dealing with Bermuda in my common Bermuda in my side lawn. And where is it coming from? Well, it's coming from my neighbor's lawn. And so I know all about that invasiveness. So just something you need to think about, even from a maintenance type program, keeping it contained is something you got to think about. I also mentioned, talking about the dormancy period. I don't know that I would want my grass to be paper sack brown for 3 or 4 months out of the year. So typically late October, especially November, all the way through May, maybe April. Bermuda in this area is going to be brown. It's going to be paper sack brown, and I don't know that I want that. So it's just a big thing to consider. I know they have turf spraying. You could paint your turf, and I could oversee with maybe a ryegrass and all that, but probably wouldn't consider that. And so the last thing that I want to leave you with, something to really consider before you do this, is the reversibility. Once you change to Bermuda grass, you're not going back. I can sit here and I could change my tall fescue over to maybe ryegrass, or I could go to Kentucky bluegrass, or vice versa, or I can change. But if once you put Bermuda in your lawn, like, it's pretty much game over. You're really never going to be able to go back. So if you change your mind or you have a change of heart, you're pretty much stuck with it. It's almost impossible, if not impossible, to remove Bermuda grass out of your lawn, especially on such a wide scale. So all of those things, all of those different considerations, everything from sunlight requirements and the climate, the amount of mowing that I'm going to have to be doing, just the invasiveness and trying to keep it under wraps, right? And then just the irreversibility. Like, if I decide that I don't want it anymore, like, I'm pretty much stuck with it. So all of those things are really important to consider before you do it. But there are a lot of pros too. Bermuda grass, unlike cool season grasses, especially in this area, are more drought tolerant. They're much easier to take, to care for. Ask any turf grass professional, and they will tell you that cool season grasses and the transition zone are some of the hardest turf grasses to grow and keep looking good. Bermuda grass is what they call an alpha grass. It dominates. It will choke out weeds. I mean, and it's just so aggressive, and fertilizer requirements are lower. I like a low mowed turf, and that's something else maybe I didn't think about, was if I'm going to be mowing low, I'm going to do some lawn leveling, and that's going to be an ongoing project, is making sure that the lawn is level. With my high mowed turf, I set it to 4.5 inches, and there's some undulations and some dips and ruts and things, and it's not that big a deal. But if you're going to be mowing tight or low, right, you've got to think about all that stuff. But man, Bermuda grass just looks absolutely beautiful. I'm watching all these videos of Pete with GCI Turf, and just putting out these videos, and I watch a lot of these other guys that do some really low mowed turf. And I know I could go Kentucky bluegrass if I really wanted to go low, but Kentucky bluegrass really would struggle in my climate. So Yeah, I mean, Bermuda grass looks beautiful, especially some of these turf type Bermuda grasses. They're high tolerance for foot traffic. Kids can be on them. They just look absolutely gorgeous. I just don't know if it's right for me at this time in my stage of this life. Would I consider it? Am I considering it? 100%. I just don't know that this is the right time. So hope you guys found the tips helpful. Think about it. Make sure you consider all the pros and cons before you do anything, because again, we talked about that reversibility. All right, guys, so that just about does it for this week's podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for coming back for another week. Again, make sure you are checking out the website. I've got some new merch, some new t-shirts that I've launched. A couple of you guys have bought some, and that's awesome. And I really appreciate all the love and support. We've got a new sponsor, if you will, coming on the channel. You guys will see that really soon. I've got lawn plans still that are 20% off through September 15th. So, and that is cool season and warm season. So if you're interested in those, make sure you go check those out. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. And my name is Devin. I'm the DIY Lawn Coach, and I can't wait to see you next week. Peace.